Okay. Hello. Hopefully this is working. Let's see. I am here. I'm Alicia. I'm here to present the Unconditional Love webinar today for the Bridge Center for Play Therapy. We're going to give everybody about a minute or two just to get signed on, and then we'll get started. And I am going to share my screen with you so you can see the presentation I have today. Okay. Great. Awesome. All right, I can just go ahead and get started with the introduction. Hopefully people trickle in as we move on. So this is Even When It's Tough, Loving Your Child Unconditionally, a training for parents. I am Alicia. I'm a play therapist and parent coach at the Bridge Center for Play Therapy. A little bit about me. I already mentioned I work at the Bridge Center. It's a play therapy center in Boulder, Colorado. I have a lot of experience working with kids. It's probably my number one passion in life. Before I was a play therapist, I was a preschool teacher, and have always just spent a lot of my time with kiddos. So I'm really honored to be here with you today to share this information and to help you better understand and love your kiddo. My purpose and my mission in this work is to really bring ease and understanding to children and parents and families as a whole. Let's see, I would love for you to set an intention before we really dive in. That could be, if you have a specific challenge that you're facing at home with your child, if you're just wanting to learn as much as you can, if you're kind of exploring the Bridge Center's philosophy, any of those things are great, whatever feels best to you. I would love to invite you to turn off any distractions that might be in your environment right now, and grab a pen and paper just to take some notes. There's a lot of information in this slideshow, and it's going to go by pretty quickly. So I just want to make sure that you guys can kind of jot down things that sound useful or important, so they don't get lost in the jumble. Okay, let's get started. So in this presentation today, we'll talk about what is unconditional love and kind of how I'm defining that in your everyday life and experience. Why and when it feels really challenging, and action steps that you can use to ease the distress when it comes up at home. And then also, this part I think is really key, is just how to have compassion for yourself and your kiddo when things feel really hard, because that's a really normal experience. And the best way for us to work with that is to just really accept where we are, where other people are in relationship to us, and have compassion for things that feel really challenging. Okay, what is unconditional love? So the way I'm defining it here today is really loving and accepting every aspect of your child. Now that is really challenging when we talk about loving the part of your child that screams at you when you tell them no. The part of your child that makes a huge mess and refuses to clean it up. These are normal challenges that every parent and every family faces. And our goal that we'll work towards, so this is definitely not something that you're going to be able to snap your fingers and achieve right away. But what our hope is with this work is to get to a place where you can love those really challenging, really triggering parts of your child. Okay, first I want to talk about some myths of unconditional love. These are really widely held in our culture, and they contribute a lot to the distress that we feel in relationship to our children when things feel hard. So the first one is that unconditional love just comes really naturally, that it's this innate bond. As soon as you bring your child home from the hospital, it's like click your fingers, there it is. And that it's after that moment in time, it's accessible all of the time, right? And what we know about the period right after birth and the first couple of months of life are actually really challenging for parents, not just because for new parents there's all these questions about what to do, but in addition with the mother kind of having a huge drop in hormones and often being really separated from the outside world, these challenges definitely impact our ability to connect with infants, right? And then at the same time, you'll have moments where maybe they're crying for long periods of time and you have no idea what to do. So these are definitely moments where it's going to feel really hard. In everywhere from those first moments to when you have a teenager who refuses to follow the boundaries you set, there are going to be challenges all along the way. There's also so many shoulds in our culture, shoulds about how you should be as a parent, whether that's from your family, the media, teachers, random people at the grocery store, right? There's all of these judgments about what parenting should look like, how it should be done, and a lot of times that's not a great fit for every parent. Another one of the myths is that your child should come before you. Their needs should be first. This myth really reminds me of, when you're on an airplane and the oxygen masks drop from the ceiling, and you're always told you have to put the mask on yourself before you put the mask on your child. Now that is exactly what I'm talking about here. If your needs aren't being met, you're not going to be able to meet the needs of your child. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of your child. There's just not going to be enough energy and space in your life to do that. Now, all of these myths contribute to a huge side effect of shame. Parenting challenges are often not widely discussed with our friends, in our communities, because often parents feel like they're doing something wrong if they don't know what they're doing, if they're feeling frustrated, if they're feeling like they have no energy to meet their child's needs. There's this idea of like, I'm going to screw up this kid. That's going to be all my fault, right? So these are some really uncomfortable things to talk about, but they're so common in our culture that I think it's just really helpful to bring some awareness that these pressures are just naturally existing in our society. Okay, it's not that easy. So besides the challenges put in place by our culture and our society, there's things that come up in the family dynamic that can be really challenging. The first one is that you don't get the child that you were hoping to get or that you dreamed about, right? There's often this like honeymoon period during pregnancy and even infancy where it feels like there's so much possibility, and parents are often drawn to an ideal of what they would love their child to be. And as most of you know, that is not usually how it works out. You don't really get to pick the kid that you get. You do have some ability to help shape them and the experiences that you provide, but your child is going to be their own completely unique individual. Now, this is going to include characteristics, traits, needs, experiences, and I think one really good example that feels fitting in the Boulder community is if you are a really active parent who loves being outside and enjoys sports or whatever it is, and you get a child who maybe just wants to play video games all day, and really has no interest in like physical activity or being outside. Now that can be really challenging because it's like, where did that come from, right? How does this fit into my life and my world? How did I produce this child? There's also unexpected life events that can really shape how children grow and develop. And as parents, we have no control over those things. That could be a disease, an accident, a loss, a major life transition that kind of changes the way the child engages with the world or develops, and can add to this idea of this is not what I thought it would be like. There's also feelings. As you know, children have very intense feelings most of the time. Their feelings are really big, and they don't have a lot of ideas about what to do when a distressing feeling happens. The result of that is usually a behavioral symptom. Temper tantrums, meltdowns, screaming, shutting down and not being able to kind of relate with you. All of these things exist. And as a parent, it can be really hard, A, to see your child in distress, and B, to know what to do with that. It can often feel like I'm not equipped for this, or I wish I didn't have to deal with this, right? Now, I want to definitely acknowledge that these are very hard things to bring awareness to. These are huge challenges that have a lot of distress around them, and they're not widely spoken about. But for me, I feel like one of the most helpful ways in grieving the child that you didn't get, in grieving the life experiences that your child has gone through that you didn't anticipate, feeling this huge disconnection when feelings or specific characteristics come up. The best way to deal with that is in community. And right now there's not a lot of conversation between parents about this experience. But wouldn't it be nice to know that you're not alone? Okay. So we were just talking about the big emotional experiences. Now, what happens when mad, sad, or scared shows up in a big way, in a way that isn't really tolerable to the person experiencing them, is that it shuts down functions of the brain. And this is a totally normal function. It is really, an adaptive quality to keep us safe, and it can really impact the relationship and create more distress, right? If I am engaging with my kiddo and I'm having a big feeling and they're having a big feeling, both of our brains are going to start to shut down, and then our ability to connect, to move through those feelings together, is going to be much smaller than it was when we were at a state of calm or had a lower impact emotion. So these are really the moments, the key moments that I'm talking about, where feeling like loving your kiddo unconditionally is going to be really hard. But at the same time, if we look at other relationships in our lives with coworkers or partners or family members who are grown, this does come up, right? And there's a lot more acknowledgement around, like, this is just a passing experience. Maybe I don't want to engage with you right now. Maybe I want to get away from you right now. And like, it's not always going to feel this way. This is just a hard moment. But for some reason, that translation of relationships between other people doesn't make it all the way to our relationships with our kids. When actually actually the same thing is happening in both, but with people around us, you can feel like you have some empowerment around saying, not right now, I need a break from you. But when it comes up with our kids, there's so much shame that's accompanied with it. Okay, the mirror. So basically, there's all people have a variety, have all of the traits, right? All of the traits, all of the needs, all of the emotions, we all have the same ones. And we all have all of them. But what happens as we grow and learn is that we accept some traits, some emotions, and we reject others based on what we perceive will be the benefit. So if I'm raised in a family where kindness and sharing are really highly valued, but being assertive isn't, I'm going to become more sharing and kind, and I'm going to reject that part of me that's more assertive based on my ability to fit into my family system. Now, because we each individually have all of these traits and all of these emotions, our bodies are always trying to find balance. This is just the natural way of the body and the nervous system and the mind. We're always unconsciously seeking balance. When this occurs in family dynamics, what happens is if you have one person really holding and accepting one trait and rejecting its opposite, right? They both still exist within the same person, but one of them is being acknowledged and held, and the other one is being totally rejected. The family system will attempt to balance in the same way that the body does. So the way this looks is if we have two parents who are having a really hard time kind of owning their sexualities, then they might have a kid who's really promiscuous, right? If we have parents who really don't like to feel or acknowledge mad in their lives, they're going to get a kiddo who rages because there's the balance, right? Both ends of the spectrum are being held. The great thing about this balancing system is that one person in the family can decide to balance themselves and therefore shift the dynamics of the other people in the relationship and shift what they are needing to hold in the family system. So when we talk about the parents who struggle with feeling mad, if they start to kind of own and accept that the mad part of themselves, it is going to not only bring balance to them, but it is going to bring balance to the whole system and to the individual child. So now there's not as much pressure on the kid to hold mad. So we're probably going to see fewer kind of explosions, rages of mad from the child. In addition, the parent is going to have started to accept that rejected part, and therefore when they see it mirrored in their child, it's not going to be as distressing. So basically, what this boils down to is that what our kids are holding is actually ours to own. What our kids are holding is actually ours to own. Great. So what this means is that lack of unconditional love for my child is actually lack of unconditional love for myself. Lack of unconditional self-acceptance, right? So I have this little experiment here for you guys to try on. If you feel comfortable, I would love for you to say this out loud. If it's easier to write it down, that's totally fine too. You take care of yourself during this experience. But I want you to think really clearly about what trait, characteristic, behavior, emotion, whatever it is that's bringing you distress in your life, that's showing up in your child. I want you to have a really clear picture of what that is. Okay, and then you're going to use this sentence. I struggle to love this part of my child. Great. Okay, now comes the hard part. I want you to take that very same trait, characteristic, emotion, and put it into this next sentence. I struggle to love this part of myself. So at this point in the webinar, you're probably thinking like, oh, this feels hard. This is not really what I wanted to do. Can't you just like give me some skills so that I can minimize this at home and not have to deal with my own stuff, right? And that's totally normal, because the reason that you rejected these traits originally is because you perceived that they might be threatening to you. So owning them is going to be very, very challenging, right? You already have this preconceived notion of whether or not it's safe or beneficial to hold this aspect of yourself. What it really comes down to is what you want your child to learn. Modeling is the #1 way that children learn. It is not the idea of do as I say, not as I do, right? Children live by do as I do. That's how they learn in our world. So if you are willing to love yourself unconditionally, accept yourself unconditionally, even when it's hard, that's what you're going to teach your child. And that is such a powerful lesson. Getting emotional over here. There's this saying in the therapeutic world that you can't expect your client to do something or go somewhere that you haven't been willing to do or go. And the same is true with parenting, right? Your child is never going to be able to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. So it's really just a question of if you are willing to accept these parts of yourself and live more authentically and congruently in self-love. It's powerful stuff. Okay, so parenting unconditionally. It starts with you, right? But that means also taking care of yourself. If this feels really hard, that's totally normal. Find a way to take care of yourself right now or following this webinar. Do whatever you need to do to really recharge. Give yourself space. So important. Owning all of your parts. And we're going to get in a couple of minutes to kind of how to approach that, how to do that. Owning your feelings. Loving your parenting style. This is a huge one, right? If you can really like ignore the shoulds or just like let them roll past you and really find a parenting style that feels like it fits for you, that feels like you're empowered, that's going to be a huge step forward. And loving your mistakes. We at the Bridge Center talk all the time about how challenges are really just opportunities for growth. And if you can see them that way, they're going to start feel a lot less challenging. Okay, so here's your action steps to start to own the things that you have rejected and that are showing up in your child. Okay, so the first part is just to start by identifying a trait or behavior that's really challenging you when it comes up in your kiddo or in your home life. And this really can apply to any kind of relationship that you might be in. If actually you're just realizing that your boss does something that drives you crazy, great. This is happening in every relationship all around us, but it definitely feels most distressing in the parent-child relationship. Okay, and you might have more than one trait or behavior that you want to work on. I would recommend just starting with one at a time to kind of work through it. Okay, the next step then is to find all of the ways that you display the same trait. I mean all of the ways. I want you to take a piece of paper and a pen and write. I want you to fill the page with all of the ways that you display the same trait or behavior. Because the more that you can own it, the clearer it's going to be. Great, and then remember to have compassion. This is not an easy process. That's totally normal. It's going to be hard, and it's going to be worth it. So just have some compassion for yourself along the way. Okay. Now, the next step is to just assess your reaction to this behavior or trait next time it comes up. I think pretty quickly you will find that it doesn't feel as distressing when you see it in your child. It's really going to reduce the distress that you feel. It's then going to reduce the distress in the relationship between you and your child. And it's going to take the pressure off of your child to hold this trait because now it's being held elsewhere. So the child now can find their own balance. Okay, I wanted to share these two resources with you. They're fabulous resources, and I really used them pretty heavily in creating this slideshow for you. The Conscious Parent is a great guide to parenting, and then Inspired Relationships is a free ebook you can find online, and it kind of takes what I've been talking about and slices it out to all different relationships in your life. So that can be really helpful. Okay, question and answer time. Let's see here. I'm just going to start our chat. If you are here and you have a question about anything I've talked about, please feel free to ask, and I will answer the best that I can. Not seeing anything so far. Well, that's great. Maybe you guys don't have any questions. Hopefully it was just clear and concise. All right. Well, the next step then, taking this to the next level. Let's see if I can share this other page with you as well. Ooh, hello. Very large. Okay. I'm going to go here. Okay, great. Hopefully you guys are seeing this. So if you're interested in taking this to the next level, we do offer a variety of services as well as continued webinars. Our next webinar is going to be on February 27th, and it's really just a deeper look at what we've been talking about today. If you're feeling like you want more information or you're ready for a more intense exercise. For the services, if you're wanting to kind of go further with the support of a Bridge Center team member, that's great. We do offer play therapy and family therapy if you live in the Boulder area. But what I really want to highlight today is our parent coaching services. This is a new service. We're really excited about it. And one of the best benefits is that we can work with families anywhere in the world via video conferencing. And this is really a short-term, goal-oriented service to kind of help you get really clear about what you want to be working on, or what feels challenging to you as a parent, skills that you'd like to develop, and really getting clear and congruent about your parenting style. You can definitely check out our website if you'd like more information. I also am immediately following. I'm going to post that exercise that we talked about on our Facebook page. And then, where is this? Okay. And if you have an experience with it that feels successful or challenging or whatever it is, if you want to share that with us on our Facebook page and let us know how it went, we would love to hear from you. So I think that's about it for today. Definitely reach out if you have any questions. I feel really grateful to have been able to be here with you today and to share this information. It feels really important to me, and I hope that you felt the same. Thank you.